Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 2021 Fmsc Fargo Mobile Pack Packathon Telethon. This is something brand new. This is our first ever. And hey, we have a lot of firsts. We have a lot of first time things going on. We've never ever done this before. We've never done a telethon like this. We've never done a podcast like this. And so welcome to that podcast. My name is Ryan Janke, and as always, I'm joined by Pastor DJ Laura.
Hello.
Sarah DeYoung is around somewhere.
You mean I'm going to lose my seat?
Well,
I just got, oh boy.
I apologize for this.
No,
I apologize for this.
You told me ahead of time.
it's all right.
Sarah DeYoung, how are you?
I feel like I just ran a marathon, which I sort of just did.
Well, Sarah, again, my name is Ryan Janke. I'm joined by Pastor DJ Lura and Sarah DeYoung, as always, and welcome to that podcast, live from the 2021 Fargo Mobile Packathon Telethon. And we're doing a lot of firsts today. Our first telethon, our first live recording of that podcast. And we also have a guest today, Dave Gunnlaugsson. If you've been watching this morning, if you've been watching the telethon, you've seen him all morning long and now into the afternoon. And Dave is here. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks so much. It's great to be with you guys. I'm excited.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. We had some technical difficulties a little earlier, but one thing that we don't have is DJ's sound noisemaker. Not here today.
I know.
It didn't get brought down?
Forgot it.
I got to make all the noises myself. So clap and da-da-da-da-da-da, charge, and whatever else we can think of at that point.
Spot on him, at least.
You like that?
Yeah.
I've been practicing.
Have you?
Yeah, no.
Oh, well, this is going to be fun. I'm happy that we're doing this. Before we get going, for those of you who are watching live, I'll give out some information here. If you'd like to donate to this wonderful, wonderful cause, Feed My Starving Children, you can do so at fmsc.org/FargoGive. Or you can call in. We have an old school telethon going on with people here standing by. And you can call 701-237-9651. That's 701-237-9651. So let's get going here. Dave, how are things going?
Good. I was just sharing earlier, we're so used to cell phones these days that if someone calls, we don't want to talk. What do? Can I call you back? Send a text? How awesome today. There's a phone number for you. You can call somebody. They're going to pick up. You can talk. You can feed kids. I think it's pretty cool.
And they want to answer the phone to talk to you.
They want it. They will answer the phone.
You won't go to voicemail.
Yeah, for sure. No voicemail today.
Oh, I love it. This is great. Dave, it's been fantastic having you. You've been here since yesterday afternoon doing some stuff. But last night, Sarah, you weren't here, and that's a shame. DJ, you were here.
Blown away.
Blown away.
Blown away
is a good way to put it.
Knocked over.
Dave spoke to our youth here, our 6th grade and up group, our confirmation and Elevate kids, and blew us away. And you had them in the palm of your hand, Dave.
Thanks. Yeah.
It was great.
I've spent time with kids in ministry for a long time, and this is a pretty big space. We had about in this space itself, we had over 100 kids.
Yep.
And standing room only on the outside, and we did set it up to social distance, so it kind of looked like you were walking into a gym to take your SATs. Like everyone had their own spot, 6 feet away from everyone, perfectly filled out. But you could hear a pin drop in here. I mean, it was dead silent, and it wasn't as if the confirmation middle schoolers and high schoolers were asleep. I mean, I know what that's like. I've taught them when they're falling asleep. It was just hanging on every word.
Yeah.
And so it was quite a sight to behold. And not only did it have an impact in your talk, Dave, but then when they went into small groups, that's when things really started to mesh. And so, again, thank you for bringing that. God showed up in the midst of everyone through the word that you were preaching.
Yes.
Well, it was my honor. I pulled into town yesterday afternoon, and Amy said, hey, how do you feel about speaking to the youth group tonight? And I'll be honest, I love feeding starving kids. I've been doing it for 9 years, but a call that God has put in my life and something that I've been passionate about for a long time is fighting for the hearts of teenagers. And so anytime anybody gives me a chance to talk to teenagers in a room where they actually might listen, I'll take it anytime I can get it. So thanks for that opportunity. I was really honored last night.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was really, really special. So Dave, you're with Feed My Starving Children. What is your role with Feed My Starving Children?
Yeah, so I guess my official role would be working with mobile pack development at Feed My Starving Children. And really what that means is my life is finding more partners and taking care of partners that we already have. And so I have a couple of regions of the country. Obviously this year we've changed some staffing with COVID that I work in primarily to maintain relationships with hosts like you guys, do whatever I can to help mobile packs happen, while at the same time constantly looking for new partners and new conversations to hopefully get people excited about packing in their community.
Cool.
You know, I don't know if this has been brought up yet, but I'm just curious. I mean, in this last year, are there packs happening around the country? And I guess where are the packs happening and how many? And
Yeah, so it's been, as for many of you, as we can say, it's been kind of a crazy year.
Yep.
Whatever we say about 2020, right? Where's Bernie? We need Bernie.
Right,
We
right.
need some mittens. And, last March we were in full-blown, we do about somewhere around 300 mobile packs a year, in addition to our permanent locations that we have in Dallas and Dallas area, Richardson and Mesa, Arizona, Illinois, all throughout Chicago and the Twin Cities. We have sites that people can come to 6 days a week and pack. We do these 250 to 300 mobile packs a year all over the country. And we were in our busiest time of the year, gearing up for April, which is always our kind of peak of the season, and COVID happened. And suddenly we were making the call, staff in the air flying to an event saying, get back on the plane, come home. We're not going to do these right now because they're not safe. And so we had shut down mobile pack last March. And our hope was we worked all throughout the summer to try to shoot for a March 1st date to come back and start to relaunch mobile pack. And with the numbers that happened later in the fall here, November, December, with COVID, our executive team and our board made the decision to wait until June 1st. So we are chomping at the bit for June 1st. We've spent the last year figuring out ways that we can pack completely as safe as we can. And so it's going to look a little different when you come to mobile packs, but the idea will still be the same. And they may be a little smaller for a while until we kind of get things hopefully better and back to normal for all of us. But our hope is by June 1st that we'll be back up in mobile packing.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So I have a question, but well, first I'll let you answer the question. What is one of the questions that we asked during the recording for this telethon that we did ahead of time to people was, what was your first experience with FMSC like? Now you're with, you work for the organization, but do you remember that first experience? Like, what was it like for you?
Yeah, I just finished seminary. I was a middle school pastor at a church and took my kids on a week-long experience in the Twin Cities, immersion experience through ministry there. And one of the nights we went and packed to Feed My Starving Children. And I had an incredible time, and I watched what it did for kids, to see their hands busy and for them to hear what you just packed is going to change lives. I mean, there's nothing that's like that for kids, that they can have that immediate of an impact. And I walked out and I kind of jokingly said to the staff, like, I'll be here someday with you guys. At this point, I'm a brand new pastor. I don't know if I was serious about it, but God obviously knew what he was doing. But I loved it so much that I said, this is a place I could work. And 5 years later, lo and behold, and now 9 years after that, I'm still working at Feed My Starving Children. So my first impression was, I just loved what it did for teenagers, and for the opportunity that it gave them to learn something of the world, that their worldview wasn't this big anymore, that FMSC blew that wide open. And they did it with cool young staff, they did it with wonderful videos, and they got your hands into it. And I couldn't think of anything better for my kids, so.
Yeah, that's great.
So Dave, you probably don't remember this, but I want to share my first experience in meeting you.
Oh boy.
It was
This could be dangerous.
It was late January 2019. It was about 30 below in Fargo. I had come up here from Charlotte, North Carolina. I had about 5 layers of clothes on that entire winter as I was getting reacclimated to what it's like to live here after being in a place where it snows, but the snow has the good sense to leave when it's overstayed its welcome. And it was about 5:30, maybe 6 a.m. and we were setting up the Shields Arena, and you were sergeant at arms. I mean, it was early, and there was a lot to do, and it was cold, and we'd already had to cancel some packs. But so many people came that quickly that you had so many hands that it was just, I watched you pace up and down the Shields Arena main floor where the hockey rink sits.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any ice on there, but it was like you were skating all over the place. And I was thinking, boy, this guy means business. Then when it came time for the first pack, who do I see walk up to the mic as the MC to the crowd? It was you. And the demeanor was just full of energy and full of excitement. And it's something that hit me as, you know, you do what you have to do for the hard stuff at the beginning to get it going, but what was coming out of you at this point was, it wasn't all business. This is joy, and this is excitement, and it was genuine. And I just thought the world of you for how you got us all mobilized, so to speak, to get all those tables set up and in the right place and get everything the way it needed to be. And then once the party started, it really was a party.
It was.
And anyway.
You know, it was a crazy morning because I had gotten the last flight out on Wednesday night to get to Fargo, and our staff couldn't get here. And so the next morning we had to make a decision, and I just had to keep buying time until the staff. So what do? You kind of pretend like you know what you're doing, right? And I had worked with Mobile Pack for a long, long time, but it's changed a lot in terms of that side of it that I don't do as often. And it was so incredible. I mean, it was freezing cold outside. Literally, you walk outside one of those, you all in Fargo know what it's like, and to see people show up that early in the morning. And when the staff came in, the whole room was ready. I mean, in a big part, a lot of it was done because Fargo had just said, we're still going to do this. No polar vortex is going to stop us. And, you know, it reminded me, I shared a story in orientation, and I came to Fargo for the first time as a college freshman, sophomore maybe, on a choir tour. And it was right around when the floods were happening here in Fargo. Maybe one of the many times, I don't know for sure. And we came up to sing and do a tour and sang, and then we helped fill sandbags. And it was the first time in my life. We had not experienced anything in Green Bay where we had a rally. The only thing we rally for in Green Bay is football games.
Sure.
And I watched this whole community come together on that trip as a young man, serving each other in any way that they could to save their community and stop this river. And it changed me as a young man. And so to be able to come back into Fargo for one of my first experiences here to be at a Mobile Pack and just go, this is just what these people do. Like nothing stops them. Floods, freezing cold weather, they get it done. And they do it because they love each other and they think about other people. And for me, Fargo will always have that special kind of spirit of, in many ways for me, Fargo taught me a lot about what it is to be the gospel. And when God says, love me and love people, I've experienced that in some of its most extreme forms and extreme weather here in Fargo. And with no complaining and with no like you do it or it's too cold, there's nothing that stops folks here from really coming out and doing all that they can to serve others and bless others. It's pretty incredible.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that as well. I wasn't on staff here yet, but I remember it was cold. I mean, it's T-shirt weather till what, 0 around here? 30 below is cold.
I will quote the good pastor that we have here, the senior pastor, Paul Cross. It was stupid cold.
Yes.
Silly.
It'd be a great T-shirt, stupid cold.
Yeah, I remember that too. It was cold and it was neat. It was neat to. How far behind were we on that shift?
Well, I know we had canceled. The crazy thing is I flew out the next day. I had to go speak somewhere else. And when I left, we had canceled the first 2 shifts.
Yeah.
And so I flew out just thinking they're going to just do all I said to the staff before I left was, just do the best you can. Like, there's no way we're going to hit 2.5 million. It's not going to happen. It's okay. We know we couldn't help it. You couldn't get here. We couldn't start on time. And I just kept getting phone calls while I'm speaking in Wichita, Kansas for the weekend. Like, I'm in shock every time I pick up my phone because it just kept happening and catching up, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and we surpassed it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah. So a question that I have, I asked you about your first experience, but one experience that I've heard you talk about a couple times, and I'd like for you to share that here, is the story of the young man in the sports. I think it was a sports program.
Yeah.
That was filling the pockets. Can
Yeah.
you tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite parts of my job, and people might think you're crazy for saying this, but I love to travel to where this food is and taking people to see it for the first time. And I've had the opportunity to do that several times with folks.
Yeah.
Oh, I had a chance to do that several times with folks, and there's a place in Port-au-Prince, Haiti called Cité Soleil, and they call it the poorest area in the Western Hemisphere. And they're literally people stacked on top of each other, it feels like, when you're there, and it's violent, and it's rough, and there's not a lot of food, there's not a lot of water, and it sits right on the ocean, and it's kind of on a dump. There's a lot of trash there as well, so it's a pretty crazy area. And they have a program there where they have kids come and play football or play soccer, and these coaches, I mean, there's not a grass field, it's a gravel field. Kids come and they're serious and they're disciplined, and coaches take it very seriously. And one of the things that happens at the end is it's a feeding program, and kids get a chance to have a meal. And I was down there with a church actually from the Twin Cities. Pretty amazing. We got there, we looked at the boxes of food, and they have these massive kettles they cook it in. And we realized the food we were serving was packed at their church. Mm-hmm. Pretty powerful time to see food packed in Minnesota at their church, and they were getting to serve it on the other side. We couldn't have made that up. I mean, it just happened. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting with these kids, and there's a language barrier, but there's never a human barrier when you're with kids. They don't care if you're picking them up and shaking them and having fun with them. And just sitting with this little man, and these guys are focused. I mean, this is their meal for the day. They've been waiting all day for this meal. And he's working that spoon, he's getting taken care of. But at the same time, he's putting stuff in his pockets. And he's filling his pockets with Fmsc food. And I just watched him. I was like, what are you, can I get you some more? Or what are you doing? And come to find out later that he had a little brother and sister that couldn't be in the soccer program yet. And so he was bringing food home to feed them. And just an amazing story. And just to take it even a step further, what's so cool about this particular program, somebody from Minnesota brought that team, a soccer team from there, up to play in a soccer tournament here in Minnesota. So imagine this Haitian soccer team. They're excellent soccer players. I've played against them many times. You can't beat them. Flying up to Minnesota, and those kids had a chance to come in and pack and beat one of our facilities in the Twin Cities. And just amazing to see that full circle experience for these kids. Really unbelievable.
I'm sure there's tons and tons of stories like that that you can share from over the years. What's your favorite memory so far with Fmsc?
I mean, maybe two. Can I give you two?
Yeah. Yeah, we got time.
No, no.
I believe he asked for one.
There's the obvious things. I work with some of the best people on the planet. I mean, these people are passionate. I'm one of the older guys on staff, passionate, bleeding heart, young people who I love having the chance to pack with my own kids. It's been amazing to watch them and hairnets from little kids up now to teenagers. But two that stand out for me that will always stand out. We met with the Somali community in the Twin Cities. This was they were projecting a horrific famine to hit Somalia, and it did. And things were really, really bad in Somalia. And if you've been around long enough, you remember some of the images you've seen over the years of Time Magazine and some of the things specifically from Somalia. And the Somali community said, and this is a Muslim community coming to us and saying, you're not our first choice to serve with because you're a Christian organization. But we need food. What can we do? And 7 weeks later, we had rented the River Center in St. Paul, and we came together and packed just shy of 5 million meals.
Wow.
In 7 weeks. And the staff rallied, and we ordered ingredients like crazy, and we hit the airwaves, and I was in the mosque every Friday recruiting and trying to convince people it was okay to come pack. It's just this amazing experience of watching people rally, and you're seeing Muslims and Christians and politicians and citymen and volunteers and all these folks from all over the Twin Cities coming together, almost 20,000 people or whatever, to pack just shy of 5 million meals in 7 weeks. And we got done with that event, and it was during Ramadan, so they were fasting as well, many of the Muslims. They would pack all day long and then break fast at nighttime. So you're just watching them pack like crazy. And there was a sense of urgency in the air for many of the folks from Somalia, the refugees that live in the Twin Cities, because it was going home for them. Mm-hmm. And I sat with a young woman one night at night. She was waiting for a ride, and we were just all kind of cleaning up and visiting, and she was just breaking her fast. And she was pretty tired, and I was just asking about her experience and so on, and she said, yeah, I'm pretty tired. I didn't sleep very well last night. I said, oh, it was Ramadan. Often with Ramadan, they'll stay up later at night and celebrate together and eat together and visit together. And she said, no, I was just, I was busy doing something. And I said, well, can I ask what you were up to? And she just said, I was online looking at you guys, looking at your website. And she just looked up at me, and I'll never forget. She said, I just kept asking myself, why do you do this? And it was, for me, I even get chills talking about it now, just so powerful of a moment to see someone's heart and eyes opened just by watching people be the hands and feet of Jesus. And it called her to go, what are you doing? Like, why? Why do you care about people in Somalia? And for me, that's a moment for me at Fmsc that will stand out probably for the rest of my life. Just sharing that brief, and we didn't have much conversation beyond that, but just I knew that her life was different because she had been there. And, and probably I could tell for days. I got lost, but I'm a bit of a storyteller. Being in Batey 106 in the Dominican Republic, and Bateys are small camps that are around sugarcane communities, and they're mostly Haitians who live in Dominican, and they work in the sugar fields all day long. And we spent a year with this community, several years, feeding a community called Batey 106. And I'd watched videos on it for years and told stories about it and did orientations, and we had videos about Batey 106. And there's a little boy in all the videos, his name is Chimmy. And I had a chance a few years ago to go to Batey 106 with just a few other staff members. And I'm standing in Batey 106, and it's really this powerful place, what God has transformed there. And I'm standing there, and we're visiting, and we're hanging out, and these little kids are hanging all over you, like they do. And I looked down, and my other staff member said, do you know who that is? And I looked down, and hanging on my arm was Chimmy. And it's one thing to see him on the video. It's a whole other thing to hold a kid in your arms who you've been talking about and see how healthy he looked and how much energy he had and the difference this food has made in his life. And one of the greatest honors of my time at Fmsc was to hold that kid and spend a few minutes playing with him and hanging out with him in Batey 106. So that's a couple.
Yeah.
But there's many, many more for sure. So
Yeah, that's great.
So I've heard about the packed food and how impactful it is. I've heard that it's been used like in place of medicine in certain parts of the world because there was no medicine.
yeah.
But they just feed the food. Is it asking too much to see if you would reveal the secret recipe on that podcast, or is it a secret, or what is in the pack?
Well, there's some other things that we make. We make a couple of different potato products as well, and we don't pack a lot of these, but one of them specifically has been created for folks suffering from cholera, which you get from bad water. And so this food has been life-saving in that way, is that it stops the diarrhea, which is maybe more detail than you want on the podcast. But if you get cholera, it's a pretty good chance it's going to kill you. Mm-hmm. And this food has been critical. And the other one is for breastfeeding mothers, for their babies, if they can't not feed their own children because they don't have enough nutrition. It's a potato product. It's more of a powder form that helps feed kids a lot at the malnutrition clinics. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so those two foods in particular have been specially created. And really the secret in the food is just the vitamins. Yes, it's the fill, it's the protein, but it's the vitamins that give kids a chance. Mm-hmm. And you can literally see a kid who has had Feed My Starving Children food. Kids in Haiti, for example, their hair will start to turn orange and get brittle. And the best thing to see in Haiti is a kid with black roots and orange tips. Did they get their hair colored? No. That means their hair is getting healthy again, and they're getting healthy again. Yeah. And when those orange tips disappear, then you know the vitamins have worked and made a difference for those kids.
About a decade or so ago, I was serving a church in Minnesota, and we'd done a small pack there. And before we did the pack, we actually, we would feed our confirmation kids, before we would do these things. But that Wednesday, before we did the pack, we had them try the food. And then get to explain to them that for many kids, most kids, that one meal is the only meal they would have all day, just that little bit. But it's amazing to me what a difference even just that little bit can do to bring life, and to restore life. And it's a humbling thing to think that we have so much of abundance here, that there are people around the world that don't even have this little bit. But when we give, when we become a part of that, there's a sense of humbleness and gratitude that comes to us, as well as a desire to serve. At least that's been the experience that I've had with youth going through and doing a pack and discovering what it is that Feed My Starving Children does. So,
Yeah, it's a neat way to get to open up some kids' eyes, because like DJ said, we don't for most of us it's not a problem. It's not an issue. All the videos are touching, but one that always gets me is the video with the mom with 2 kids and had to decide which one was going to get fed and which one wasn't going to get fed, and then they finally got the Fmsc food. But even think about the kids, but the parents too. Like, how do you make that choice? How do you how can you do that?
And it's crazy
kind of makes our
too.
choices over, do I go with Verizon or AT&T, seem a little fickle, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Right.
It's
Hulu or
crazy too when
Netflix.
you look at like a pouch that's like about the same size as, like, I always think of an Uncle Ben's like ready pouch mix, and that's 6 meals for people. But for us, it's like, oh, I would like, that's 2 servings of rice for me for supper.
Right.
First world problems, right?
One of the
Yeah,
first times I
absolutely.
took folks to Haiti, we were with a soccer program that we'll maybe see a video from later today in the telethon. And we had kids line up for the soccer program. And as far as you could see, there's kids that come to eat. And we gave our donors the chance to hand out the food to the kids. And a woman came back in tears and saw the empty kettle, saw 2 more bowls, and more kids in that. And she came back and she said, she was in tears, and she said, I can't do this. I said, what? She goes, I can't choose which ones to give it to. And thankfully we had more food we were able to cook and prepare and serve, but I mean, this is a daily reality for some of these mothers. And I'll never forget the first time I put a box of food on a mother's head and our eyes met. And tears for both of us, because I knew where this food had come from. And for her, what this food meant to her and her family for the next month was pretty profound. And so, really powerful stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I just keep interrupting you, Ryan.
No, go ahead.
I had
We
heard,
got time.
sometimes people think about the big problems in the world and they think, well, we can never fix those. Why can't we solve world hunger? I've heard that there's a mathematical number, and we have enough food in the world to feed everyone. We have enough money to make it happen. That's a feasible number. What keeps us from doing it? Well, often it's our wills. It's control. It's things like that. And when I think about that problem and that there is a solvable solution, I think that Feed My Starving Children is a really good avenue to combat that, to know that this is something that we can all be a part of. There's no limit to who can be a part of Feed My Starving Children, whether it's serving or whether it's giving of our not just our time, but our treasure and so on. Everyone hearing this can be a part of that.
Yeah.
To end hunger.
Right. And your interruption actually helped me with a segue here.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I planned it.
Yeah,
Just work that
exactly.
out before this, or
Well, no, you're.
Wah, wah. There we go.
Where's
Sound
your
effects.
machine?
Yeah.
You were talking about, DJ, you were talking about that there is enough food. It's just getting it there. Feed My Starving Children, and this number blows me away every time, gets 99.7% of the food that's packed to the location safely. Can you touch on that, talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, we share a lot of numbers at FMSC. 24 cents feeds a kid, 216 meals in a box, 6 meals in a bag. Of all the numbers I love to share, that's my favorite one. Because there's no way.
That's crazy.
It's not us saying like, hey, Feed My Starving Children is really good at this. The World Food Program isn't calling us and saying, what's your secret? It really is, and I can't think of it any other way than to say that God has these kids in mind. He knows their names. He knows their stories. And, I mean, we could tell you some stories about some of the things these containers have gone through to get where they are. Even a few of the containers that haven't made it, chances are still feeding people. But it's amazing to hear God's protection over this food as it's gone to different places. And the stories, if you sit with our international programs team ever, and they're the ones that work with all of our partners, they're phenomenal people. Some of my favorites at FMSC, and if you hear their hearts and the stories they tell of what their partners go through every day to get this food, out of customs even is hard. I mean, customs in international countries, very, very challenging. Customs here is hard. But the travels, Mark tells a story, and I won't get it all right, but basically of food making its way across the seas, food that went on a boat, on a truck, on a motorcycle, on a donkey, on a back, across the river. I mean, he could tell you the story, we can look it up for you maybe later, of like 16 different touches this food has. A full month's journey to get where it's supposed to go. Mm-hmm. And only God could orchestrate something like that.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Definitely.
There it is, the sound machine.
Yeah. You've all, loyal listeners of that podcast, have heard us talk about Elijah S. Elijah S. has some great questions.
He sure does.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps us on our toes.
He does. And Elijah S. We owe him again.
Delivered the sound
He just
machine.
delivered the goods.
Oh, man.
There's usually a lot of mayhem and shenanigans going on
I like
on
it.
that podcast.
I like it.
Yeah, this is more like a PBS NewsHour version of that podcast. It's kind of nice. I feel kind of classy. I'm a little underdressed, but
Yeah. With the tables and should have got.
We're actually talking about important stuff for a change.
Yeah. Oh man. So, what you said that we're praying, we're crossing our fingers for June 1. What will that look like going forward with PAX and that sort of thing? Are we obviously going to use a similar model as before, but is there going to be the social distancing and the different protocols and all that sort of thing, or are we still working that out? Or
No, I think we're pretty close to ready with this rollout. And really what it's going to look like is everything's going to be further apart. When you pack at a station, it used to be we could say 20 people could fit at a station. Now you're going to hear us speak in terms of funnels, and we're going to say the max number at a funnel, at least for now, who knows, is going to be 5 people. If you know them, you live with them, you come together. Mm-hmm. So we've had situations at our sites where we have 5 on one side and 1 or 2 people on the other side. And they actually pack faster than normally with 20 people because they have masks on and they're not communicating as much. And music is still cranking, but lots and lots of safety stuff, taking your temperature when you come in the door, making sure we do sign-ups before people come in, screening people, come in with your group, sit with your group, wash your hands with your group, go to your pre-assigned station as a group. And so it's just going to feel like it's a lot more structured, moving things around. Mm-hmm. But it's for the safety. We really desperately, and by God's grace, we're so thankful. We haven't really had any instances with volunteers having problems with COVID at our facilities that have been open since June. Some staffing things on occasion, but we're so thankful. And so we want people to feel completely safe when they come out to pack. And that's why we moved from March to June, because the numbers were so crazy for a while there. We had to make sure that we didn't want to put people in a high problematic situation. So we have, we have a food expert, we have a safety expert. We're meeting together as a team 3 or 4 times a week to talk about every single detail, to the point where when a staff member walks out of their house, what's the first thing they do? They take their temperature before they get their rental car. They take their temperature when they get there. We'll have a quarantine room at the facility, wherever the packing is. Stations will be spread apart. Our hope, and really we won't settle for anything else, is for our volunteers to be as safe as possible, because we wouldn't ever want to be in a situation where people were getting sick packing with us. And so I'm really proud of our team. We were down to just 5 of us left with Mobile Pack who've been working on this since June. We had a lot of staff that have been laid off or let go for the time being, and so the hope is to bring some of them back if they have that opportunity, and we'll be hiring a lot of new staff. And the training, I'll go through all the training again, even though I've been there 9 years. We'll be really, really thorough to make sure people are really safe when they come pack.
Cool. What's your favorite cheer? After everybody's done, when they get a box filled, there's 36 bags per box.
Yeah.
And they encourage everybody, after you get your box filled, so that somebody knows to come and get it, you got to have a cheer.
I figure you're just picking on me because I used to be a cheerleader. I see.
No, I wasn't going to do that.
My favorite is just people yelling box as loud as they can.
Yeah.
There's table 7, manna from heaven, box number 7, manna from heaven. Oh my gosh, I'm a little rusty. It's been a while. But so much creativity from people over the years.
Yeah.
And it usually comes from little people. they'll whisper in an adult's ear or yell it out. Nobody can hear it. And then an adult will yell it louder for them. But, people that come in that look kind of well put together and pretty professional, and all of a sudden they're yelling out the top of their lungs at their station.
Yeah.
That's some of my favorite stuff.
So in the
You guys have one maybe?
well, in the upper Midwest, we don't like to yell and scream and holler.
No, we just
It's more of a
smile at you as loud as we can.
over here.
Really loud nods.
Yeah, right. Can you hear it shaking
Yep.
inside? Yeah.
I got a question about the mobile pack events. Who chooses the soundtrack? The different songs that are played. And especially if it's the same every time, that has to be like burned into your brain.
I was going to ask, what's your favorite song from the Mobile Pack playlist?
Well, it's crazy because this is a point of contention on staff a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Because
We finally got to the controversy.
This is what we're here for.
the staff that do it all the time, they're like, I can't possibly listen to this song one more time. If you play Sweet Caroline one more time, there's been movements to ban that song from playlists at FMSC. We have to remember the volunteers, maybe their favorite song. And so it's a little
Bum.
yeah, it's a little touch and go. You turn the music down, everybody sings it. And honestly, it is crazy what a playlist can do for. There it is.
Yep.
What music can do to volunteer packing. Like if you have a bad playlist, packing just goes, it bottoms out.
Yeah.
And so I'll go back to staff and say, listen, I know you love that song, but it stinks. Like no one's packing.
It's kind of like running a marathon.
Yeah.
Like, got to keep that RPM up.
So you do have songs that were made after 1995?
Yeah, we do.
There you go, sir.
You should never go to YMCA. Unless you need them to slow down.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So their arms start going up, they stop
Yep.
packing. And so
Oh,
you have to
yeah,
be-
I suppose.
There's a lot of controversy and a lot of conversation. And then, of course, we've listened to all the songs, because early on in my FMSC career, I'd be walking across the floor singing a song going, oh my gosh, what is this song saying? The song sounds just innocent. And so we've had somebody who's gone through all the lyrics of every song to make sure we're appropriate. And some people want Christian music and some don't. And it is a lot more work has gone into that than you would think. So
Can I ask a
Ryan, what
personal
was the-
question about?
Well, I was just going to say that last year, Ryan and I were trying to decide. We have a favorite rapper from the 90s.
Yep.
Oh,
And so we were going
No.
we were going through his set list and realized, these probably wouldn't be appropriate for the
It was Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Sir Mix-a-Lot Swass.
Yeah. Buttermilk biscuits.
yeah, it's not going to work, man.
No.
It's not going to work.
No.
I spent all 3 days last year asking for Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 to be added, and it never was. And I know that's
Where
appropriate.
would that be on the Paco-meter with production?
We can't give anybody the impression that we just work from 9 to 5. That's
Oh,
never going to
okay,
work.
okay.
If you've been to a mobile pack, in fact, that's one of the new things that's going to happen in mobile
9
pack.
to
We're going
9.
to shorten the days just a little bit.
Who's got the gavel? Wham!
Yeah, we're done.
Oh man.
So,
That's good.
yeah, but you bring up is maybe one of the most touch and go things that happens. If you want to see a couple staff get mad at each other, start talking about certain songs. It's tricky business.
So when they're driving from location to location, they're not playing the
It's usually
FMSC.
4 headphones, around, listening to their own music.
Just peace and quiet, soak it in for a couple days to go back to
Well,
loud.
it's going to be so crazy when we come back. One of the things we're changing is when we travel together, we won't be able to ride in the same car anymore.
Oh.
And so when we land in a spot, it's going to be 4 different rental cars. Or we go to a spot, it's going to be 4 different cars. At least till we get some more relief with COVID. And so it'll be kind of weird to be, staff will be a little bit different than it has been before. We won't be spending as much time together as we used to, for sure.
Yeah, I suppose that can be good and bad.
Yeah, they do become like family a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're with them almost every weekend in some form or fashion. So.
Wow. All right. Well, we've got about 5 more minutes here. Do you have any other questions, DJ or Sarah?
Well, I want to know what everybody, what's your favorite mobile packing memory or moment?
Well, for me, we have. I won't name him specifically, but we get we have a 1-day adoption of one of the congregation. Well, he's a high schooler now, but he becomes a janky for a day because the first pack that we ever did here at Atonement, all of a sudden, his mom comes up about, 45 minutes, hour later. Have you seen him? Oh, yeah, he's right here with us. And so
He stays all day, doesn't he?
Yeah, every mobile pack he he's with us. So she knows right where to find him now. Is even at Shields Arena with however
find the
many people
Jankies.
are there. Yep. Yeah. Where? Aren't you nervous? You don't know where he is? No, I know right where he is. As soon as he comes through the door. That's one of my favorite memories is the people that we've packed with and doing that and getting excited for it every year.
I was going to say my favorite moment was once we started packing again in the 2 years ago during the polar vortex. Is I got to pack for the first time in a decade with Pastor Becky and with Jarl Iverson. And Becky is, without a doubt, a slave driver when it comes to packing. She was giving me faster, you're too slow, pull it down, like this, let's go. But it was fun to do it.
She's there to pack 2.5 million
She
meals.
is. She was not messing around, and it was a really cool experience, and I was just chuckling like, man, she is so fast.
You know,
I thought I was quick. I thought I was athletic. No. You don't mess with Pastor Becky when it comes to packing.
maybe we should play I Can See Your True Colors shining through. People's real personalities come out when they're under pressure.
That's great.
Dave, do you have a favorite Fargo memory?
Wow. I think my favorite Fargo memory probably happened from afar when I wasn't here. And being on stage, speaking in Wichita with teenagers and getting these texts over and over. And I'm just like, it's like a little miracle every time you, like, come on. Like, no way. Yeah. And what that does for staff and what that did for your community. I mean, I think if your folks in Fargo didn't love Mobile Pack before, after that event and an impossible weekend, I think they fell in love with Mobile Pack forever. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes the best memories are not when you're here, but what you get to see happen and see God do. So for me, there's so many more, but there's no Mobile Pack where you'll eat better. There's no Mobile Pack where you'll be treated better than you are here. But for sure, hearing that from afar, flying out of Fargo that weekend, just kind of turning it over to God and saying, okay, God, whatever you have for this thing. Yeah. And 48 hours later, it was done. Yeah. So
that's great.
How about you?
I think it's also the first year, because the first shift that it was like call in, just the random, whoever is able to come, just show up, we'll pack some.
Was that 2019?
Yep, so Polar Vortex year, and it was like the back corner of the Shields Arena was filled with volunteers. And I don't even remember, I think it was Amy who said it. She's like, that's what would fill the Ark at Atonement. And then the next shift was full. So just seeing that difference of like, oh.
That's right. That
this
was
is
the
gonna
first.
happen.
That was the first year. It was at the Shields Arena. Prior to that, it was in this
In here,
space.
yeah.
Yep.
Oh wow.
So just getting to see that difference of, oh yeah.
I will say
Turned up
that
to
was
11.
kind of neat driving because I was doing all the shifts in some capacity, and part of just kind of meeting people and getting to be a part of this great ministry and being so excited that this is what this church is about. This is what this community is about. And then to hear it come out on the radio that we have some open shifts because of the polar vortex, come to the Shields Arena. Anyone and everyone. And Fargo rallied and it all came together. It's pretty cool.
You know, we kind of joked 5 years ago. I mean, the vision was kind of put out there 5 or 6 years ago, like what would it look like for all of Fargo to kind of pack together? And to walk into Shields for the first time and see a vision that God had put on some people's hearts in this community kind of come to fruition. I mean, you see it happening. It's pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Dave Gunnlaugsson, thank you so much for joining us today on that podcast and all day for the telethon. This has been fantastic. And last night, I won't get over that. Last night, you had those kids right here. Wish I could do that. Just one time.
Just bring them back every year during Mobile Pack time.
Yeah, that was great.
Remember,
Every
God
year,
loves
I'm
you no
thinking
matter
every
what.
week.
Okay.
Let's just keep bringing them back.
God loves you no matter what.
And so do I.
No, deal with it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, deal with it. Deal with it. That's right.
No
That's
matter
right.
what. No, it was the
Oh, yeah.
plus
Yeah.
and you having the kids tackle each other. But that's a story we don't have to talk about here. That was
Yeah, right. We picked two brothers to make sure.
yes.
So.
We were COVID safe.
Yeah. All right. DJ, would you mind saying a prayer?
Love to. Gracious God, we thank you for all the blessings you give us. Thank you for this time to laugh and to share the goodness that we see you working through Feed My Starving Children, through the Fargo community, through the churches, through everyone who you are calling to be in partnership with this ministry and with this service. And we pray, Lord, that we would see your wonders happening through Feed My Starving Children for the hungry around the world, that we would see the miracles and wonders that you are working every day, that we are often so busy or so distracted that we don't see your Holy Spirit working. I ask that you would bless Dave, you would bless the entire Feed My Starving Children staff and team, that more and more would come to partner with them and to be a part of this wonderful, wonderful, life-saving ministry. Bless us as we go to what you are calling us to do. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And for those of you in podcast land, don't forget that you can join us every Sunday morning at 9 and 10:30 a.m. for services, a tradition service and a modern service. You can find us at atonement.live, atonementfargo.org, or by searching on YouTube, searching Atonement Fargo. So for Pastor DJ Lura, Sarah DeYoung, and Dave Gunnlaugsson, my name is Ryan Janke. Join us next time for another riveting episode of That Podcast.